the red wolf. He reminded himself that it had been hard enough to keep his life, so he should stop trembling cowardly. Then, he rushed forward and landed a punch squarely in its face, sending it flying. This was the result of investing many points into muscle strength. Thus, the protagonist continues to exchange blows with the wolf. However, since its jaw was still much stronger than his fists, Jin-Woo had no choice but to dodge and run away. Without a two-person healing team, at the very least, he needed a weapon imbued with magic power to fight against the steel fangs. When he was about to be bitten to death, he quickly opened his inventory and drew out a sword, slicing the wolf in half. So, he successfully eliminated the terrifying wolf. Sung Jin-Woo couldn't believe that he suddenly possessed Chi Yun's leader's $3 million sword, something he could never dream of affording. The wound on his face also healed quickly. Suddenly, 2 more steel-fanged wolves appeared. He thought having a weapon would ensure his victory, but unfortunately, it got stuck deep in the ground and he couldn't pull it out. It wasn't until the 2 wolves got close to him that he finally managed to retrieve it. He launched an attack, but one wolf's steel jaws clamped down on his weapon. Jin-Woo then followed up with a kick to its body and mustered all his strength to decapitate it. Seeing this, the other wolf got scared and ran away. Finally, he leveled up to level 2, which increased all his attribute points by 1. Thus, practical combat to level up seemed more beneficial than completing daily quests. The most noticeable improvement was in his muscle strength. Even with just 32 points, his body felt much lighter. However, these monsters were peculiar. They only dropped items like fangs and didn't give any magic stones. This suggested that the dungeon and monsters in this system were different from the gates in reality. Interestingly, there was an item shop too, but at Sung Jin-Woo's current level, he could only sell items, not buy them. He sold the fang he just obtained and received 20 gold. While he was still contemplating his strategies, a large pack of steel-fanged wolves emerged from a distant dark corner. It seemed these were not yet the dungeon bosses. Having already faced death once, this was nothing for him. Sung Jin-Woo charged forward, facing the wolf pack alone, trying his best to avoid getting bitten and delivering the most decisive blows possible. He gripped his sword tightly, determined not to let cowardice invade his mind again. As long as he was alive, he would find every way to become stronger. If he could get stronger, he was willing to comply with the system's absurd rules. After a period of slashing through the wolf pack, Jin-Woo's level steadily increased, and he earned the title of Wolf Slayer. His sword was chipped, and his body was exhausted from the sheer number of wolves. His inventory had collected a considerable amount of items, including a teleportation stone, which allowed him to leave a dungeon midway and return home without needing to defeat the boss. With this, he could go home immediately, but doing so would forfeit the chance to significantly increase his strength. Jin-Woo was deeply conflicted about whether to retreat or continue, but his final decision was to press on. He was walking along when she received an unexpected call from the Hunters Association, informing her that the gate from the other day was experiencing a dungeon break. They were gathering freelance hunters to find a way to deal with it, and it was quite close to her location. Juhi's expression suddenly turned serious. Meanwhile, our protagonist was facing numerous other monsters in the hidden dungeon. As his level increased, it became easier to defeat the monsters. The color of each monster's display seemed to symbolize their danger level: white for weaker monsters, orange for those on par with him, and red for stronger ones. The steel-fanged wolves that initially appeared red had now turned white, indicating that he had become much stronger than them. Perhaps due to his heightened sensory abilities, Jin-Woo sensed a terrifying monster waiting for him deep below. As he reached level 15, it became harder to level up, and his sword was nearing its breaking point. He needed to defeat the boss soon, to prevent his sword from breaking uselessly. He decided to descend the long staircase of the station. Below, it no longer resembled a station, but looked more like an ancient ruin. Suddenly, something shot out from the water, smashing him into the wall at incredible speed. Now, his sword was completely broken. His opponent was Kasaka, the venomous king of the swamp, with green scales. Although it appeared to be the boss, its name was only Orange, and its body was covered in incredibly tough scales that even his sword couldn't penetrate. It attacked with extreme speed, using its body as a weapon, so the only way to win was to break through its defense. But how could he penetrate that thick skin? The Swamp King quickly circled, tearing up the ground to catch him. Its tail started swinging, and if he took the full brunt of that attack, he would surely die. Sung Jin-Woo was knocked into the water and then tossed back up. The giant snake flung him around everywhere. As he lifted his head, he saw an entire train car flying straight towards him. At that moment, the only thing Sung Jin-Woo could do was run for his life, luckily avoiding being crushed. Despite coming this far, he still felt powerless. How much harder would he have to try to escape being ridiculed? He recalled how people had called him the weakest hunter of humanity. Only Chief Song Chi-yun had encouraged him to keep trying to reclaim his honor. Back in the present, the protagonist managed to block a bite from the boss with half of his broken sword, only to be flung across the room by its tail, crashing through a wall. Jin-Woo felt a deep shame about his nickname and his past weakness. He realized that if he could become strong and overpowering, he wouldn't need to fear anything, and his mere presence would make others tremble. Despite being intelligent, quick-witted, and caring, he knew he could still be easily betrayed. Thus, gaining strength had become his top priority. He leaped onto the snake, but was quickly thrown back to the ground. Nonetheless, he forced himself to stand with a determined resolve to become stronger. As the Swamp King charged again, Jin-Woo planted his sword into its armor and held on tight. He then leaped up and drove another strike into its body. Finally, when the boss swung its head around, baring its massive jaws to bite him, Jin-Woo threw away his weapon and used the muscle strength he had meticulously increased to grasp the monster's head. His strength was enough to shatter the snake's tough armor, causing it to thrash around wildly. Jin-Woo clung on, mustering all his strength to crush its neck. After a fierce struggle, he succeeded in crushing the head of Kasaka, the Swamp King. Defeating the monster boosted Jin-Woo's level several times, and he received Kasaka's venomous fang, a C-rank weapon, and a vial of Kasaka's venom, an A-rank item. When the boss was defeated, the dungeon reverted to its original state, teleporting him back to the station. Jin-Woo found himself alone. A soldier arrived, ordering him to leave and scolding him for not listening to the news on TV. But upon seeing the weapon in Jin-Woo's hand, the soldier realized he was a hunter and led him to a nearby dungeon break where monsters were spilling out. All the monsters had been cleared by the hunters except for one boss. The military and hunters were struggling against it while civilians recklessly took photos, oblivious to the danger. The healers were trying to restore the frontline defenders who were being pushed back. Despite continuous attacks from the damage dealers, the monster remained unscathed. This team, hastily assembled to handle the disaster, lacked coordination and a magic user hunter. Most were low-ranked, mostly A-rank with a few D ranks, and the highest-ranked healer was B-rank, coincidentally Juhi. However, her fearfulness rendered her ineffective, and she was berated by lower-ranked hunters. Suddenly, the memory of the terrifying statue from a week ago flashed in Juhi's mind, paralyzing her with fear. Even though this boss was weaker than the one Jin-Woo had just defeated, he readied himself for battle. As the hunters were on the verge of collapse, Jin-Woo summoned his strength and hurled his broken sword at the boss's head with incredible force, breaking through its tough defense. Now, the hunters could focus their attacks and easily defeat it. One of the